Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star based on novel. So let's start. Watching the screen, the leaders could see Golden Claw God Luo Feng easily dodge the giant hands. He was toying with that dark red rock giant. Those beams of light couldn't even touch him. However, as the ancient engraving kept diving and the distance grew shorter, Luo Feng found it harder to dodge all the attacks. He was hit from time to time. Duan Mie. The first level of burning godly power. Luo Feng couldn't help it. The four leaders smiled as they watched Luo Feng on the screen. Ha ha ha. This soldier Milky Way finally starts to perform the godly power burning technique. He's so patient that he has just now started the technique. As a soldier from the special army, he must know the first level of godly power burning from the basic inheritance. After performing the godly power burning technique, Luo Feng's attacks, defense, and speed were immediately improved. Everything became easy for him again. It was a piece of cake for him to handle the rock hand, the dark red rock giant, and the traces of light all at the same time. After several minutes, the ancient engraving kept diving. It almost touched Luo Feng, forcing him to fly down a bit. He couldn't linger close to it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to dodge the beams of flowing light. The leaders spoke up one by one. The second floor is nothing to that soldier Milky Way. That's right. Although he might suffer some losses at the final moment, his godly body has barely been consumed. It has no effects on him. In the miniature worlds on the second floor of Wu Chi Tower. It still hasn't ended yet. The teenager in the dark red armor was trying his best to run away. The engraving picture was only 1,000,000 kilometers away from the ground now, so he couldn't fly high. The giant rocky hand from the cracks couldn't easily seize him. The teenager kept getting hit by the flowing light, yet he didn't care whatsoever. It was impossible for him to dodge the flowing light, and all his attention was focused below. The rock hand rushed out. The armored teenager tried to dodge it but realized he wasn't fast enough. No, said the teenager as the palm, which was 1,000,000 kilometers wide, reached out, extending a portion of it out of the crack. I've lost too much of my godly body, and my power's been significantly weakened. I can't dodge it even if I try. The armored teen felt pitiful. The same time, he controlled his weapon to internally attack that rock hand. The dark red rock giant rushed toward the armored teen and slapped him relentlessly. He was slapped 20 times instantly. Finally, he fled out of the giant, rocky hand. Yet the light started to fall on him. I can't. The armored teen could feel his godly body quickly growing weaker and weaker. The giant hand burst out of the crack again. Before it could even touch the armored teen, he was annihilated by the flowing light. Only pieces of armor and machine-type valuables were left. Another soldier had died. Half a minute after the armor teen died, 3 surviving soldiers had their miniature worlds dissipated, and the rock giants were reduced to crimson fluids and flowed back to the cracks. The soldiers who survived were all dazed. I'm still alive. Still alive. I was in despair. Finally, it ended. If I had stayed there 1 second more, I would have been dead. The 3 soldiers who survived were overjoyed. They had been through hell to survive the miniature worlds. The best of them only had 1/10 of his power remaining, and the weakest had less than 1/1000th of his power left, which meant he would have died if he had stayed there any longer. But the 3 of them had ultimately survived. The 3 soldiers immediately recovered from their rapture. What should we do? Our godly bodies couldn't be weaker, and we're more fragile than ever. This is only the second floor of Wu Chi Tower. There's still the 3rd floor, 4th floor, and 5th floor. How are we going to survive those? That's right. We're already so weak. The 3 soldiers were all worried. We're not the only ones who are weak. It's a fair game. Perhaps Wu Chi Tower will provide us with some valuables to recover our godly bodies. What do you mean by not the only ones? Look at that soldier from Python River Army. He's still suppressing the dark red rock giant. A soldier pointed into the distance, and the other 2 soldiers followed his gesture. The soldiers from the next group, especially Luo Feng, were still at the peak of their power. After performing the first level of burning godly power, He can even suppress that dark red rock giant. He often uses that dark red rock giant as a shield to block the flowing light and the giant rock hand. How can he be so powerful? The 3 soldiers who survived exclaimed their surprise. All of a sudden, 3 light pillars arrived and covered the 3 soldiers. They immediately disappeared. They're being transported to the 3rd floor. Luo Feng glanced around. 2 of the 5 died, and the other 3 are extra weak. This may be the case for my group as well. With the ancient engraving picture falling, the soldiers in Luo Feng's group suffered even worse. Eventually, soldiers began to die. There were also 3 soldiers from Luo Feng's group who survived. I've survived. Haha. I've survived. The other 2 soldiers were thrilled, but they both kept their distance when they saw Luo Feng. Luo Feng glanced at the thin Xu Zhong and chuckled, he's lucky enough to still be alive. Xu Zhong was terrified and regretful. He knew that Milky Way was on to him. 3 light pillars appeared, covered Luo Feng and the other 2, and transported them away. The 3rd floor of Wu Chi Tower was a vast plain. Luo Feng and the other 2 soldiers appeared on it. The 4th group has arrived. Both the 3rd and the 4th group have 3 left. Luo Feng looking into the distance. He saw beings in the distant. Some of them were soldiers, while some were strange beasts. There were many of them. 11 soldiers were on the plain. 11 soldiers? Luo Feng thought. 6 survived from the 3rd and the 4th groups. The other 5 must be from the 1st and the 2nd groups. The 3rd floor of Wu Chi Tower requires all the soldiers to gather together. Luo Feng observed them carefully. Suddenly, the survivors from the 3rd and the 4th group were all terrified. They teleported and tried to stay away, sealing the space ripples around them. What? The survivors from the 1st and the 2nd groups were all dazed. It was clear that the soldier before them was apparently on a whole different level than the other soldiers. They were scared by no more than a look from him. We need to stay away from him as well. All of them are trying to stay away from him. That soldier from Python River Army must be terrific. The survivors from the 1st and the 2nd groups didn't know Luo Feng's power, but they were careful enough to stay away from him and seal the space ripples around them. Luo Feng shook his head and smiled. Time flew, and on the 6th day, another round of soldiers arrived. There were 2 of them. After a short while, the 6th group of soldiers arrived, and there were 3 of them. 2 months passed. 38 soldiers had already gathered on the plain on the 3rd floor of Wu Chi Tower. Some of the new soldiers were friends of the soldiers in the first 4 groups, and they soon learned how terrific the soldier from Python River Army was. Most tried to stay away from him, yet some were confident enough not to. He's only a tribal warrior, yet you're all so terrified of him, a giant plant life form said with resent. There were colorful flowers on its body, and on the largest flower were several eyes and mouths. I killed tens of thousands of tribal warriors before I joined the army. The plant life looked at Luo Feng with blatant provocation. Your godly body is almost 100 million kilometers tall, said one of the soldiers from afar. Of course you don't need to fear him. Luo Feng didn't care whatsoever about the emotions of those around him. He was just standing there. Finally, 2 more soldiers arrived, and something happened in the world of the plains. A whirlpool that looked like ripples of water appeared in the sky. All 40 soldiers who had survived looked to the sky. Space and time trembled. All 40 soldiers, no matter where they were transported directly under the giant whirlpool. Screens of light fell from the whirlpool in the sky. They covered an area with a diameter of 1 billion kilometers, separating it from the outside world entirely. The diameter of the whirlpool was also 1 billion kilometers. A giant eye appeared at the center of the whirlpool. It looked down at those below. All of a sudden, the soldiers felt that their souls had clotted. Wu Chi Tower. An ancient voice echoed in the ears of all soldiers. Your lives are in danger on the first 3 levels. However, if you can survive the first 3 levels, you'll be safe. From the 4th level, you'll have a chance to get inheritance and valuables, continued the ancient voice. Of course, that's only after you survive the 3rd level. High up in the air, that gigantic divine eye was looking down at 40 warriors. An aged voice continued to resonate within their minds. All you 40 warriors, based on the powers you have displayed in the first 2 levels, on this 3rd level, only 15 of you will be able to survive. The 15 of you who can survive the 3rd level will make it up to the 4th level and earn yourselves various incentives. Until you endure the crisis on the 3rd level, entering the battleship is forbidden. Doing so would render you an immediate failure, and you will fall straight into annihilation. The words of the aged voice gave Luo Feng a shock. How could there only be 15 survivors? The majority of the warriors instantly started to worry. Those who could make it past the 3rd level would definitely be extraordinary, but still, more than half of them would die. Other than a handful like Luo Feng, the other warriors would certainly not be daring enough to say they would survive this level. Another 2 explosive sounds rang, and huge branches and leaves could be seen spreading out. They radiated a dazzling golden light that continuously lashed at every tribal warrior. Upon receiving such a direct lashing, one pitiful warrior, who had been left with less than 1% of its godly power, was annihilated to nothingness. What? It killed a warrior. The other fortunate survivors looked on in shock. Even Luo Feng looked over. The warrior who had made a move earlier was a plant life form, and one of the radiantly colored flowers that formed part of this it sneered, saying, Wu Qitao mentioned that only 15 could survive, but it did not forbid us from fighting one another. The more I kill, the fewer opponents I am left with. Haha. Meet your doom. The torture from the miniature world that they had all just experienced on the 2nd level had left most of these warriors with severe injuries. The weakest ones did not even have 1/1000th of their peak power left. Escape. Beware. Let's go. Several warriors who considered themselves to be severely injured were quick to scuttle off in all directions while trying their best to maintain a safe distance from the more powerful warriors. However, high up in space, the divine eye had enshrouded an area that was within 1 billion kilometers of the domain of light. No matter how hard they tried to escape, there was no way they could make it out of this area. At that point, the area that was within the divine eye's domain of light, there was total chaos. Luo Feng stood rooted to his spot, ignoring everything in his surroundings. Besides, there was not a single warrior who dared approach him. Even the most arrogant warrior, who was a plant life form, did not dare to attack him. The gigantic divine eye high up in space suddenly lit up. Streaks of golden light shone down and gradually spread out. This is. Several warriors who had still been fighting earlier on suddenly felt as though their souls, life imprints, were struck by a sudden impact. Many of them temporarily stopped fighting one another. First and foremost, they had to focus on mounting a vigilant defense. No one knew what kind of danger lurked in the 3rd level. If it was some very terrifying danger and they remained distracted with all the fighting, then they would truly be courting their own doom. A short moment later, 3 out of the 40 warriors were annihilated. All 3 had already been near death from severe injuries sustained while on the 2nd level. They had just been trampled to death. Even their automaton-type treasures, armors, and weapons were taken away from them. Luckily, this Milky Way did not make any move. Xu Zhong looked at Luo Feng from afar, then tilted his head back to look high up into the sky where the divine eye was. The many warriors on land were all looking up at the divine eye. The divine eye had released an endless golden light that enshrouded everything beneath it. The powerful impact of its willpower was, to the relief of the warriors, bearable for them all. This 3rd level, what kind of danger does it contain? Just this one divine eye? The 2nd level started out with mere diagrams of secret engravings, but after that, out popped the rock giant and all. Who knows? There might be some kind of bizarre danger that may emerge on this 3rd level. The warriors were all filled with apprehension. There were even some who immediately flew up into the air, not daring to stay near to the ground lest something suddenly appear from the grassland. The endless golden light shone down on the grassland and upon every single warrior. Its power was gradually increasing. The impact of the willpower is becoming stronger. Could this be the 3rd level of Wu Qi Tower? A test of willpower? One after another, the warriors were resisting. No one was willing to concede defeat so easily. They were all aware that this 3rd level was the final level that contained the threat of death. Starting at the 4th level, there would only be various incentives and rewards to gain. Who would not want to take that gamble? Luo Feng endured the impact of the willpower as he silently sighed to himself. No wonder those warriors who were severely injured had been unable to get any treatment. This was a test of willpower. The loss of a godly body would have a great impact on combat power but would only affect the influence on willpower by a minute amount. The impact of willpower is gradually increasing. Luo Feng turned his head and looked into the distance at that Xu Zhong, who had taken the form of a bib bird. This impact of willpower has no influence over me at all. I must seize the moment, while the impact of the willpower is still weak, and get rid of him first. Luo Feng's speed skyrocketed, and without further delay, he flew toward Xu Zhong far in the distance. Xu Zhong was in the midst of resisting the impact of that willpower while remaining watchful over his surroundings. He might have had Bib Bird, which boasted impressive escape skills, but earlier on, when he had been on the second level of Wu Chi Tower, he had sustained serious injuries because of Bib Bird's relatively weaker frontal combat skills. Even though he had been able to recuperate for recovery during the downtime, upon entering the second level, he only managed to recover around 50% of his godly body. His power was left with only 1/10 of what he had started with. Of course, he had to exercise extra vigilance. Xu Zhong spotted a streak of light flying toward him from afar. Milky Way. Xu Zhong was dumbfounded. He was terrified of this Milky Way. Xu Zhong transformed into a large white bird and picked up speed as he flew. At the same time, he sent a voice transmission. Milky Way, we are both from the East Army. Why must you pursue me so painstakingly? If I don't kill you, who else should I kill? Luo Feng returned the voice transmission coldly. Xu Zhong suddenly felt his heart sink. Earlier on, when they had just started on the first level of Wu Chi Tower, he had launched a sneak attack on Luo Feng. At the time, he had told Luo Feng, "You are a new recruit. If I don't kill you, who else should I kill?" Now, the tables were suddenly turned. Xu Zhong was desperate as he replied via voice transmission, "Milky Way, so long as you spare me, I am willing to offer this automaton-type treasure as a gift to express my apology." Humph. Luo Feng merely replied with a cold snort. While his goal was to break through levels in this Wu Chi Tower, Luo Feng was not really interested in killing. But he truly abhorred people like Xu Zhong. To one's face, they acted as though they were brothers, yet the moment one turned his back, they would pounce. Back when Luo Feng had still been a nobody, he had once been met with a sudden ambush by his partner, Mo Luo, while journeying about Demon Note Mountain. Since then, Luo Feng had cultivated a deep hatred for such a character. Xu Zhong. Of course, he had to kill him. Luo Feng pursued as Xu Zhong fled. Xu Zhong took the form of a big white bird, and although his power was only 1/10 of what he had started with, his speed of flight was still much faster than Luo Feng. Blaze up. With a move of intention, Luo Feng executed the first volume of extermination, and the speed of Golden Claw God Luo Feng immediately soared. He had his Shi Wu wings, which were adept in acceleration during flight. He might not have brought it with him to the world of Jin, but he had studied it meticulously for over 8 million eras. He had also studied Shi Wu wings as an overall treasure, along with many other secret techniques. And the body technique Flowing Gold was highly suited for acceleration. Luo Feng's speed skyrocketed. Milky Way, Xu Zhong looked behind him with a flustered expression. "What will it take for you to let me go?" Luo Feng transmitted his voice message with great indifference. "When you are gone for good, naturally, I will let go of you." They flew, one after the other, both moving at a terrifyingly fast speed. The area under the domain of light was shrouded by the divine eye. It was merely 1 million kilometers wide. Given their current speed, they would not require more than a second to traverse the entire region within the domain of light. This was why Xu Zhong had been following an arc-shaped route while flying, turning corners as he tried his best to fly. Luo Feng could not reach him even after half a minute of hot pursuit. Perhaps, because he was in the face of imminent death, Xu Zhong was putting in his utmost best. Or perhaps Bib Bird was exceptionally skilled at flying. "If I execute the second volume of extermination, I can capture you in an instant." Luo Feng shook his head to himself. In Nine Smoke Marsh, He had dared to execute the second volume of extermination because the area had not been under the control of warriors. But at Wu Chi Tower, every move he made was apparently under close observation. Thus, it was only natural for him to refrain from executing the second volume of extermination. Let's see how long you can hold out. Luo Feng continued to give chase, forcing Xu Zhong to stay vigilant without any chance for a breather. Xu Zhong was extremely agonized, resentful, and regretful. Time continued to pass. The divine eye, high up in the sky, was radiating a golden light that contained a willpower with an impact that was continuously on the rise. In the beginning, they had all been able to bear the impact easily, but now, a number of warriors were feeling the pressure. The impact of this willpower has reached the ultimate limit of a law master. Some of the warriors were already in extreme agony. They might have all been elite warriors, but in respect to willpower, most could be regarded as having achieved the breakthrough of the bottleneck to attain the willpower at true god level, while there were still a handful who fell short of this standard. Kill. Kill. While trying to bear the impact of this willpower, there were warriors who persisted in fighting and killing, especially warriors who personally felt that they were lacking in terms of willpower. All the more, they were giving their all to eliminate opponents. The more we kill, the fewer opponents we have. So long as the last 15 are left standing, everything comes to an end. Kill. Everything fell into darkness. Over 30 warriors transformed into streaks of flowing light and flew at high speed while occasionally crossing paths with one another. Under such circumstances, where they had to fight for their lives while resisting the impact of the willpower, the moment they let their guard down, they would likely be hit. Those who were slower or had weaker powers would gradually begin to be annihilated. The number of warriors was starting to drop. As the impact of the willpower of the divine eye high in the sky gained strength, the warriors were all growing fearful. Earlier, when they had all been fighting one another, the impact of the willpower of the divine eye had only been a small threat. But now, the impact of that willpower was gradually beginning to exceed the limit of endurance for a number of these warriors. No. As the impact of the willpower exceeded the ultimate limit of a law master, 9 warriors, who were flying at high speed while dodging and fighting, started experiencing convulsions throughout their entire bodies. The next moment, they fell into a state of unconsciousness, then collapsed. Obviously, the impact of the willpower was too much to bear. And high up where it was, the divine eye shot out 9 streams of eye-piercing purple light. 9 streams of purple light struck the 9 unconscious warriors who had fallen, causing them to be annihilated, only leaving behind pieces of armor, automaton-type treasures, and some other belongings. Luo Feng, who was in the process of pursuing Xu Zhong, was flying past at an extremely fast rate of speed. He whistled past and, with a single wave of his hand, collected all the belongings that one of the 9 warriors had left behind. That's quite a large number of treasures. He swept through the surroundings. This third level of Wu Chi Tower offers quite a good opportunity to seize large amounts of treasures. If I miss this chance, I don't know if I will ever encounter another opportunity in the future. Every warrior was, in essence, a moving treasure vault. Nearly every warrior would at least possess 2 automaton-type treasures. After all, they had made it through the first and second levels. In the distance, Xu Zhong was still trying his best to escape. I must escape, I want to escape. I cannot die. This impact of the willpower is getting too strong. I don't think I can bear it any much longer. The divine eye shone upon the grasslands and onto every warrior. The willpower of those golden rays contained an impact that was growing stronger with the passing of time, albeit quite slowly. Warriors who were unable to bear the increasing impact only had one way out: death. Only 15 could survive. The godly eye in the sky kept giving out an enhanced mental shock, making it more and more difficult for soldiers to resist the attacks. No. Xu Zhong could feel that he was losing his consciousness under the effect of the godly eye. Stay conscious. For the love of God, stay conscious. He took a look at the golden claw god flying like a streak of black light. It didn't slow down at all. Stay conscious. Conscious. Xu Zhong couldn't have been more apprehensive. However, it was apparent that his mind was crumbling as the mental shock was being strengthened. Under the shock, he couldn't fly smoothly anymore. He transmitted his voice at the last moment of his life. Milky Way. I shouldn't have done that. I was wrong. Spare my life. Spare my life. Golden Claw God Luo Feng immediately caught up with Xu Zhong. Die. Luo Feng's claw slashed at the giant white bird, and beneath that single attack, the giant white bird started to plummet. The giant white bird dropped onto the plain, and Luo Feng landed beside it. Luo Feng looked at the giant bird, known as Bib Bird, which had already lost consciousness. The soldiers fighting in the distance looked toward him, and they all knew that the soldier lying there was crumbling and would soon be destroyed by the godly eye. It would definitely leave some valuables behind, yet none of them dared to fight Luo Feng for them. A trace of purple light shot out of the godly eye and struck Bib Bird. Suddenly, Xu Zhong, under the protection of its machine-type valuable, was annihilated. Only some pieces of armor, space bracelets, and machine-type valuables were left. Luo Feng waved his hands and claimed all the valuables left. He surged and rushed toward the soldiers who were fighting each other. The number of soldiers was plummeting. 28. 26. 23. Soldiers kept dying, some killed by the godly eye and others killed by fellow soldiers. Scram, a voice rumbled, and Golden Claw God Luo Feng turned into a streak of light, dashing toward a soldier who had been killed by the godly eye, seeking to seize the valuables left behind. It's that soldier, Milky Way. That soldier, Milky Way. 3 soldiers were racing toward the fallen valuables, but they all fled when they saw that Luo Feng was heading in the same direction. If they had been right next to the fallen valuables, they might have stood a chance of getting them. However, they were relatively far away, and even if they could get a step ahead, they would have been overtaken by that soldier Milky Way. Then it would be a nightmare for all of them. Of the 2 soldiers who gained the most valuables, one was Luo Feng, and the other was the plant life form. In fact, the plant soldier had claimed more valuables than Luo Feng. The area only had a diameter of 1 billion kilometers, yet the plant life form soldier alone was almost 100 million kilometers tall. After spreading out its branches, it covered a large area, so it easily claimed many valuables with that advantage. Suddenly, the most beautiful flower on the plant life form cried out in a shrill voice. No. It can't be. Die. Die. All of you. Die. The plant life form soldier was quite powerful in some aspects. However, the mind shock from the godly eye in the sky made it difficult for it to survive. As a plant life, it had a great advantage when it came to fighting, so it hadn't sharpened its willpower well enough. Although its willpower had reached the level of a true god, it was only mediocre compared to other elite soldiers. No. It realized it couldn't resist any longer. Its will was crumbling. All the soldiers in the distance looked toward the plant soldier. It's dying. It can't hold it anymore. They tried to stay back, but they all watched greedily, knowing that it had gathered the most machine-type valuables. Luo Feng was floating in the sky, watching. No. Die. Die, all of you, roared the plant soldier, slashing with its branches. Each branch had flowing golden light on it. They swept back and forth, trying to kill more soldiers. However, the soldiers all stayed as far away from it as possible. Those who still survived had only lost a small portion of their power, so even if they were ensnared by the plant soldier, they wouldn't die quickly. No. The flying branches were all drawn down, followed by a shriek. Apparently, it had lost its consciousness. Luo Feng's eyes gleamed. He immediately surged, racing toward the plant life form like a streak of light. Other soldiers also flew toward it. They all longed for machine-type valuables. Even if the valuables weren't suited to them, they could exchange them for military credits and obtain one that was a good fit. A cold streak of purple light fell on that plant life form, and it was annihilated. Only valuables were left. A strange beast soldier with 2 pairs of wings and a 3-horned head raced toward it like lightning. It was the fastest out of all the soldiers. They're mine. It flew close to the plain and immediately took all the valuables there. Damn you, yelled a furious voice. The strange beast soldier took a look and smirked. Soldier Milky Way, I'm indeed not as powerful as you, but I fly much faster than you. Luo Feng raced toward him. Really, he said. Luo Feng immediately changed. The golden claw god disappeared, and Luo Feng turned into a silver-white flying beast, the Bib Bird. Bib Bird, gasped the flying beast soldier, horrified. Bib Bird Luo Feng sped up, moving much faster than the strange beast soldier, and caught up in no time. Luo Feng's eyes were cold. After Xu Zhong had died, he had gotten Bib Bird. He had already planned to get as many valuables as possible on the 3rd floor, so he had immediately transferred Bib Bird to Boat of Mausoleum, giving it to Golden Horned Beast for a trial. Golden Horned Beast had subsequently studied Bib Bird in the space of inheritance, where time traveled 10,000 times slower than in the outer world. It had spent more than a day studying it in the space of inheritance, yet, in the outside world, less than 10 seconds had passed. How, said the strange beast soldier, feeling tense. Usually, it took a long time for someone to fully comprehend a new machine-type valuable. How had Milky Way learned how to use Bib Bird so soon after acquiring it? Little did it know that Luo Feng had already achieved so much in engravings, and with the space of inheritance, it had taken him only an instant to fully comprehend it. Everyone says you're powerful, the flying beast soldier shrieked. I don't believe you're that more powerful than me. Go down. The Bib Bird caught up with the strange beast instantly. The wings performed the blade technique light of water and fire like a streak of light, striking the strange beast soldier, which plummeted to the plain below, forming a huge crater. Luo Feng transformed from a giant silver bird back into Golden Claw God. After all, Golden Claw God was better at attacks. Die. Golden Claw God surrounded the flying beast soldier, striking it relentlessly. The shadow submerged the flying beast soldier like waves. How, said the flying beast soldier. It tried to fight Luo Feng. However, once the flying beast soldier was attached to Luo Feng, it couldn't even run away because Luo Feng was so much stronger. Under the endless rays of blade light, the flying beast who had endured the 2nd floor of Wu Chi Tower lost much of its power was crushed. After only 30 seconds, the flying beast soldier was annihilated. Humph. Luo Feng took the valuables. Clearly, it was an elite soldier. It lasted longer than that true god from Nine Smoke Marsh even under severe injuries. The other soldiers looked on in amazement. In the past 30 seconds, a powerful strange beast elite soldier couldn't even flee. Instead, it had been crushed to death. Terror. Intimidation. A variety of emotions flooded their minds. This was the first time Luo Feng had killed a soldier on the 3rd floor. Xu Zhong had been killed by the godly eye. By killing this strange beast, Luo Feng had made it clear to these soldiers that it was wise for them to stay away from him. The godly eye in the sky gave out endless golden light, and the power of its mental shock grew stronger and stronger. Only 15 can survive. The soldiers went mad under the suppression of the mental shock, and it was pushing them to their limits. They tried to fight each other harder and harder. The number kept declining. 20, 18, 16. Finally, 15. When there were only 15 soldiers in the area illuminated by the godly eye, the mental shock power had already reached the level of top-tier true gods, close to limit-level true gods. All the soldiers except for Luo Feng had found it difficult to bear. 8 million eras. Luo Feng glanced at the soldiers in the distance and sighed. Mental shock. Even a mental shock at the level of limit true gods was nothing to him. Back when he had obtained the inheritance from Duandong River, his mind had already reached true god level. For a long period of time, he had the space of inheritance to train himself, which was the perfect place to cultivate supreme beings. Willpower could also be sharpened in the space of inheritance. Luo Feng had spent more than 8 million eras there, improving his willpower from true god level to a whole new level. He speculated that his willpower had reached the level of a true god of void space. It was normal for true gods to have the willpower of true gods of void space. Even some true gods in Universe Ocean had achieved that, not to mention those in the world of Jinn. However, it was rare for Universe Masters to achieve willpower at the level of a true god of void space. I have the space of inheritance, thought Luo Feng. If I couldn't achieve it, I'd be a sorry excuse for an inheritor of Duandong River. Every inheritor of Duandong River could easily reach willpower at the level of a true god of void space when they were only Universe Masters. The godly eye vanished. 15 light pillars arrived, enveloping all 15 soldiers and transporting them away from the third level of Wu Chi Tower. This video will end here.